The first thing we're going to do is go over the promotions calendar, give you a sense of where dates fall. And the one thing I just do want to mention that each college or school has a different promotions calendar, but then falls in line with the overall university-wide calendar. So you may have some other dates that you need to pay attention to within cooperative extension, or within the Carl Vinson Institute of Government, or within College of Pharmacy, when things are due to your unit or your department in order to get it to the college or the university level. But quickly, the first piece is we have a workshop in March, actually 10 days ago, for your promotions coordinators. And we actually had a couple dozen folks in that session. Those are the folks that will then will basically track you or take your materials and then make sure they get sent to the university level on time. Each college or school or unit should have a promotions coordinator, so you might want to check who that is with your college or unit or your school to help make sure that you hit your unit deadlines. So they've gone through a similar orientation. Of course, we're here today and then on April to 29th, and then we send a promotions memorandum out to all the deans and unit directors in August, just to get a sense from them as to how many folks are going up for promotion. So if you haven't informed your dean or your department head or your unit director that you're intending to go through the promotion process, you might want to do so in the next 30, 60 days, depending on your unit's timeline. Because we'd like to get a sense of who's going up, so we can set our committee and make sure we have enough folks to do the readings and making those decisions on your dossier. And that, of course, that list is due on September the 3rd, so that's around the Labor Day weekend. I believe that's the Tuesday after Labor Day, if I remember correctly. Oops. And then right after we have the list sent in, we put together the appointment committee, who will then, those are the folks that will take a look at your promotion dossiers and do the readings and make decisions on your dossiers and your promotions in the process. Your dossiers are due to our office on October 11th. Now, this is a change from years past. We usually get the dossiers in our office a week earlier. We're trying to coordinate all our dossier submissions with promotion and tenure. So if anyone that you know that are going up for promotion and tenure, that's the same date. And again, so don't get confused. We'll give you basically an extra week this year to make sure things get together. But all the dossiers will be sent to various places on campus on October the 11th. We'll get the promotions committee together on the 22nd, charge them, give them the materials that they need. They'll take them a while to read through all the materials. Generally, we get 30 to 40 dossiers that folks have to read through, so we have to give them enough time. They have projects, they have work to do, other than just the promotions work that they volunteer to help do. We also have the Thanksgiving holiday over that time, so we need to give them enough time to thoroughly read through all the dossiers. We meet then on December the 4th, Appeals Week. If anyone is denied promotion from the committee, you have a chance to appeal, and we'll talk about that process later. December the 9th through the 13th, we basically give you a week to kind of put together any additional materials you need. And then the deliberations committee for the appeals, if necessary, meets December the 16th. Once all that is sorted out, the provost asked that we send him all, or right now, or actually it's her, interim provost, the materials by January the 10th. So that's the process. Now, even though the committee votes and affirms that yes, you do get promoted, we do pass the materials to the provost. Even though he or she signs off and says yes, you do get promoted, it's not official until the president signs off, and usually the president signs off sometime in March. All right. So at any point of the process, you could be denied or you could be moved on. So we don't officially send out word until we hear back from the provost of the president's office that the promotion has been formally approved. And then it does not take effect until July 1st of 2014. All right. So it's a little bit of a lengthy process to make sure everything gets together. Any questions on the calendar? Athens? Adele, downstairs, anybody there? I don't see anybody, so.
No, sir.
Okay. Cartersville, any questions on the calendar? You can switch back.
No.
All right. Griffin?
We're good.
Statesboro?
No questions.
Tifton?
No questions.
Okay. Great. All right. The next thing we'd like to cover is what we're calling the changes of note. These are the changes that have occurred since actually the dossier was the promotions guideline was put together last 2 years ago. Every 2 years, it's required that a committee, and if you're looking at in the back of your book, the committee that took a look at the dossier, the appointment and promotion guidelines. In the back of the book on page 22, that's the committee that took a look at the guidelines. And again, we're required by university policy to take a look at these every 2 years. So there are some changes. We're going to point out some the more significant changes. Of course, some of the wording might have adjusted somewhat, so there may be a little bit different wording on a couple of things, but as long as it didn't change the intent of the document, we're not going to go through every little comma or dash or anything like that. But we do want to point out those significant things that may be affecting your dossier in the future. All right? So, these are the new guidelines. All right, on part one, so if you follow along in your booklet, part one starts on page 1. I'm going to refer to the public service assistant on page 3 of your guidelines booklet. We did some moving around so there was less confusion, but for those, all the new material is in red. For those persons seeking promotion to public service assistant, you need a minimum of 3 years in rank, counted from the date of his or her appointment. So actually, that requirement is the same, but we shifted that so it reads a little bit better to the assistant area, so don't get confused. You need to be in the rank of public service representative for 3 years before you are eligible to be a public service, go up for a public service assistant. So 3 years at the representative rank if you start off at the representative rank, all right? And number 6 has changed. Progression of the public service representative rank to public service assistant requires a positive majority vote by the promotions committee of the college and level. This recommendation should be forwarded to the office of the vice president for public service and outreach for approval. So this was changed a couple of years ago. We just moved this in so it's more prominent for the assistant. So if you're moving from representative to assistant, all you need is a positive vote from your college. You do not get reviewed by committee at the university level, right? All right. Since it's one of 2 entry-level ranks. Moving on to public service associate, the words that are significant here is on page 3 also is number 4. We want to make sure that your dossier, and Judy will talk about this, and Mark will talk about this a little bit later, that is, there's demonstrated impact of superior quality work. All right, so Judy and Mark will go through what that means. Judy, I think especially in the dossier piece. But make sure you can see that demonstrated impact in your work. Number 5, collaboration with another. This is another change. that's fairly significant. It broadens this requirement. Collaboration with another public service and outreach unit and/or academic department at an accredited institution of higher education is required, clearly specifying the level of the candidate's contribution. If you remember the older standard, it was and/or, but it was any USG college or school. It's broadened to include any post-secondary college or school. So if you want to work with UT Chattanooga, if you're up in the Chattanooga area, if you want to work with Auburn because you're in the Columbus area, if you want to work with University of South Carolina, I'm just picking out schools that might make sense. University of South Carolina at Aiken, that would fulfill this requirement, right? It's still and/or. So, and also, this is inclusive of all the technical colleges and schools. So any accredited higher education institution. The issue here is then we want to try to collaborate our university resources with other colleges, universities in the state or even regionally or even nationally. So there's some cross-fertilization there. And also the same thing goes for public service units. So if you're doing some work with the extension at Auburn or with the Institute of Government at UNC Chapel Hill, that would count. Where in the past that wouldn't have counted as a collaboration, all right? You're also encouraged to collaborate with your brother-sister units here on campus, but this broadens it. It makes it a little bit easier for folks in the field or who might be doing regional and national work, all right? Senior Public Service Associate, okay, so on the next page, on page 4, if you're following along, there's been some changes in 4, 5, and 6 just to stay consistent with everybody else, all the other ranks. Number 4, again, a demonstrated impact has been added. The most significant piece on this, change on this, is number 5, which is in red. The Vice President would like to see that you have tangible evidence of contributions to the body of knowledge or practice in his or her chosen field being required. So we're looking for folks, looking for presentations, research, applied research, anything that you do to add to the body of knowledge of your discipline needs to be shown or displayed in your dossier. That's a new thing, although serving on this group for not only in this role for 9 years or so, I served as in Judy DeMark's role before that. I would say close to 100% of the folks that are going up for senior have a listing of how they contributed to their body of knowledge. So I don't think this is much of a stretch for folks going up for senior. There's a lot of folks doing applied research, whatever, but we need to make sure that we see it in your requirements in your dossier. All right. And number 6 is consistent with the previous requirement, the associates. The only thing that's a little different there is, again, and this has been in place for a while, is the and, but again, it's broader and includes any academic department or outreach unit at any accredited institution of higher education, so it include the technical colleges. We're working more closely at USG again with the technical schools. They have now, what's the word I'm looking for? Their courses are transferable to USG system, so we're trying to work more collaboratively with those. So that's one of the main reasons why we've included the technical schools, and again, any other college or university outside the Georgia or within Georgia would be fine. All right, under the notes, so at the bottom of page 4, we just highlighted or added that last piece. The director's letter should state that the candidate is asking for promotion without the terminal degree and provide the rationale for making this exception. There's always been the exception of the terminal degree, and Mark will talk about that later if we have any questions about that. But what I wanted to highlight is, if you do not have a terminal degree, make sure that it's highlighted in the director's letter. If they highlight that, there's a reason for it. They understand it. It's very obvious for the committee, it's very obvious to the director, and they'll be able to help paint that case for you all and the rationale for making that exception in the director's letter. So just another piece of evidence to help you move forward with that particular requirement in your dossier. All right, part two. We wanted to make sure there wasn't any confusion about instruction and training. It can be done in a variety of settings. You're not required just to do that in a UGA classroom. As the previous chancellor mentioned, the state is our classroom, so instruction can be done again in a variety of settings. In section C, in part two, there's a lot of units that are getting under consultation and technical assistance on page 5. Actually, it bleeds over to 6. There's a lot of units getting involved in needs assessment and information dissemination, so we wanted to make sure that that was obvious for folks to see.
What pages are you on?
Page 5.
In the book.
In the book, yes. I'm trying to follow along in the book since you all have it in front of you with the changes of note. On part 2, the should be, we just wanted to make sure that should be composed of one of these general functions. On part 4, I'm going to move fairly quickly because there's a couple of things just to make sure things are obvious on these other parts. In the introduction, to be consistent with the requirements of adding to the body of knowledge on page 9 in your book, we just make sure it was obvious that we had conference presentations were included in adding to that body of knowledge. In part 4, on minimum years and rank, if a candidate is, again, asking for early promotion, the dossier should clearly reflect that point. That has not changed. But we're asking to make sure that the director's letter states that the candidate is asking for early promotion. This is a rare occasion. Every once in a while we'll get someone who goes up for early promotion. For instance, there's someone that's been here, requirement for associate is 4 years. They've been here 3 years and 11 months. They got hired in August the 1st instead of July the 1st. It makes a lot of sense. They've built up a body of work that is consistent with promotion. If that's the case, the director or the dean would write in their letter, here's the rationale for why they're going up for early promotion. Here's the rationale why. It's consistent with anybody else going up, whatever they want to say. But it needs to be stated in that letter, the rationale for why early promotion. So it's very obvious to the committee. All right, a new phenomenon that we've had recently that the committee tried to address is part 4 of the promotion, under the promotion process, is the temporary public service faculty. There are more and more faculty being hired as a temporary public service faculty due to the budgetary issues. It's an opportunity for an administrator to hire someone basically on a trial basis. We're trying not to penalize that individual for being a temporary public service faculty as long as their body of work is consistent with if they were not a temporary faculty. So we're trying to give those individuals credit for the time they've been here at the university. As long as their job description didn't change, their work is comparable to someone that's not in temporary status. But again, the director's letter should clearly state that the candidate serve as a temporary faculty for that certain period of time. The duties performed were equivalent to those duties performed by public service and outreach faculty who were not designated as temporary. Okay? You just need to make sure that the director's letter or the dean's letter states that. All right. At the bottom of page 10, we're asking folks that are going to vote, this doesn't pertain, well, it might pertain to some of y'all because y'all be voting, some folks that are going for senior or even for associate would be voting on the reps. Make sure you're familiar with the guidelines when you're voting. Sometimes some of us old timers don't look at the guidelines and they were making votes on dossiers and things have changed. So we're just asking that folks be familiar before they vote on their colleagues on their dossiers. So we just want to point that out to you all and folks. So, all right, the rest of this is around technical items. We're trying to go as paperless as we possibly can. We're asking that you only submit one original dossier, or one original document. We need that original in order to pass that on to the provost office, faculty affairs, for them to review. But the rest of it can be done on either a USB flash drive, PDF format, and that's just the specifics. I'm not going to go through all the specifics of that, but you can read how we'd like to get that broken up. So again, just one original document, and then the rest of it can be electronic. In the past, we've had a couple of paper copies, so you don't no longer need to do that. It will save some paper, and it'll be easier for the committees to take a look at. We're asking that the documents that can be searchable are searchable. That's why it says searchable PDF. If you have an issue with that, give me a call, and we'll work through that. Just reiterating again on number 5 there, candidate lacks a terminal degree. Please refer to pages 4 and 10. We've already been through that. The next slide just again reiterates conference presentations and papers and journals. It's just consistent with what was the requirements earlier. Again, on part 4, there's searchable materials, non-searchable materials. The website is there for you to take a look at. The summary narrative, and Mark will talk a little bit about this later, and Judy will also, but it's an important document. But again, it's since your last promotion or appointment. We've added that because people get confused once in a while. And then on submitting a dossier, again, we're being a little redundant, but it's a quick way to take a look at page 21 in your booklet, what the format needs to look like. File 1 should consist of the following. File 2 should consist of the following. File 3, that kind of a thing, all right? And the same thing on the bottom of page 21. We just make sure we're being consistent there, the searchable PDFs, et cetera, et cetera. I believe that's it for me. All right, I'm going to go around quickly and ask if you have any questions about the changes before we have Mark talk about the process and the requirements, all right? All right, so Athens, anything upstairs about the changes? All these materials are on our website, so you can download copies of this or to go to the website to take a look at not only the promotions booklet, but the change of notes, a separate document. All right, Adele, you still by yourself downstairs?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Cartersville? No? Good. Good, all right. Griffin?
No questions?
All right. Statesboro?
No questions.
All right. Tifton?
Well, I have 2 questions.
All right.
First,
And who are-
on page 4,
Who are you?
Laura Johnson, sorry.
That's all right. Laura.
First on page 4, when it talks about the terminal degree, for county agents, is that a master's degree? Is that considered a terminal degree?
Now, we'll talk about that a little bit later. No, it's your terminal degree in your discipline. So there's a few disciplines that do not require a terminal degree. For instance, landscape architecture. In fact, the Dean Ananichek, has a master's, and that's considered a terminal degree. Masters of Fine Arts is another one. There's probably a handful out there, but no, if your discipline has an advanced degree or a terminal degree, that would not be considered a terminal degree.
Okay, my second question is on page 10, in the bottom paragraph where it says, shall measure computing senior public service faculty. Does senior there mean experienced and not actually the rank of senior public service? So
Yes.
associates,
That's-
they don't vote on both?
It says senior public service faculty because if it would we specifically ask for associates, that word would be replaced. It would say senior public service associates instead of faculty. So it could be a public service associate who's been here 30 years or 20 years. We're looking for the senior people in years, not necessarily in rank.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good questions. All right, I'm going to turn this over now to Mark.